This is what Beijing looked like before the coronavirus outbreak. And this is what it looks like now. Major Chinese cities have seen blue skies in the past month. That's because China has seen a dramatic drop in emissions and pollutants since measures to contain the novel coronavirus have been put in place. China's CO2 levels have dropped by at least a quarter in just 1 month, resulting in global emissions decreasing by 6 to 7%.
That's quite certainly the most dramatic shift in global emissions that has taken place over such a short period, really almost overnight.
CO2 is the main driver of global warming, and China is the country that emits the largest amount of CO2 in the world. It's primarily emitted by energy production, like burning coal, oil, or natural gas. China kept its factories, construction sites, and refineries closed for a month to contain the spread of the coronavirus. And that resulted in 200 million fewer tons of CO2 in 4 weeks.
The most important question right now is what does the Chinese government do and what do other governments do to offset the economic hit from the virus. So the most concerning scenario would be something similar to what the Chinese government did after the global financial crisis, which was to launch a very coal-intensive, very energy-intensive wave of stimulus, massive construction projects, just to keep the industry going. And that meant a surge in the country's emissions, even though they initially fell after the crisis. The positive scenario would be a set of stimulus that targets clean energy, that targets greener economic sectors, that targets consumption rather than these energy-intensive industries.
This map, generated by NASA, shows the extent to which air pollution has decreased in China since the outbreak of the coronavirus. Travel restrictions have meant fewer cars and trucks on the road, so less nitrogen dioxide, an important air pollutant, being spewed into the atmosphere. And that's not just the case in China. Italy, the country second hardest hit by the virus, has also imposed major travel restrictions, which has likewise resulted in a large drop in air pollution. The corona outbreak has also meant a decrease in aviation, which contributes around 5% to climate change. The number of global flight passengers has dropped by 10% in the past month. This number is expected to rise even more as governments begin to lock down their borders. The coronavirus has meant a huge economic loss, and measures to contain the virus have had a major impact on people. But these measures have also resulted in a global decrease in pollutants and emissions.
So we estimate that fossil fuels, coal, oil and gas, are responsible for more than 4 million premature deaths each year. So they are also a massive public health crisis that we would do well to address. I think the key learning is seeing what becomes possible where there is a real sense of crisis. And that's something that we've been lacking in terms of climate change. I think it's clear that climate change is a crisis on a level that requires the preparedness to take dramatic action, the preparedness to change behavior and so on. I think we could use some of the sense of urgency and the sense of crisis that we've seen in the response to the coronavirus.
What my more than 30 years of being in epidemics and writing about the threat of pandemics and my work in climate change, what they share is the loss of the power of imagination. It's easy to imagine something positive. You can go out into Silicon Valley and do your TED Talk and say, the world's going to be so cool because I've imagined this added to the world or this technology. And everybody gets very excited, even if it's all quite far-fetched and never proves to pan out. But when your imagining is about something dire, something truly catastrophic, even existential, as is the case with climate change, the collective can't absorb it.